Well, thanks for tuning in for church today. It's great to see you. Isn't this exciting? Why, how different everything is right now. But hey, we're excited. And actually, I was thinking just today as I was out walking my dog, a verse came to mind. The one in Romans 8, I think it's verse 31. I'm just going to quickly read it to you. Just give us a second. Here we go. Romans 8, verse 31 says this: "If God is for us, who can be against us?" And we've all said that verse from time to time. We've all told ourselves that. We've all used it to, give ourselves courage and think, yeah, what can stand against us if God's for us? But what really stood out to me is it said, if God is for us. If. Like, it implies that actually God might not be for us, if we're living lives that maybe are outside His will. And so I got thinking that actually I stopped for a moment and questioned, do I believe God is with us? And I got thinking about all the different things that God's done, that God's said, that God's taken us through. And I got to thinking, it's undeniable. He absolutely is with us. Which means that the other bit, who can be against us, that really applies, because through this whole different experience, we can say, hey, God's going to do something powerful because we know He's with us, so what can stand against us? This is not a negative thing. This is not a difficulty to overcome. This is us walking in faith that God's going to do something powerful through this online church. So I'm excited about that, and I'm also excited because we've got coming up just shortly a great interview that Leah's done with 3 of our lovely ladies in the church, 3 of our mums, who are going to hopefully pass on some wisdom to you, tell you something that you will encourage you, that will build you up and that will make you a better parent. So I'm excited about that, to just get some wisdom off of them. So hey, stay tuned for that. But just before we get into that, I just want to quickly pray that God bless us this time together. Father, we thank you because we know that you're in this. We thank you, Father, because we know that you're with us right now. That even though we're in different locations, even though this is a very different experience, we know you're here with us because you are with us, so who can stand against us? So I pray you bless this time, Lord. I pray you bless our interactions together in the chat window. I pray you bless those one-to-one conversations that are going on as well in the background. And Father, just make this time really productive and really a kingdom building time. We're believing, Lord, you're going to do amazing things and you're going to grow and build your kingdom through this experience. We thank you, Lord. Amen.
Good morning. You've made it. Well done. You're all tuning in today to listen to do church. Yay. 11 a.m. this morning. I hope you're sat there with a cup of tea, cup of coffee. You've had your full English breakfast, haven't you, ladies? And you're ready to go for church. Who would have thought church online?
No.
This time last week we would never have thought that, would we? No. So happy Mother's Day to you all. Happy Mother's Day.
Thank you.
I hope you're all getting spoilt this morning. And so today we've got a panel of ladies who have agreed to join us and just chat through things that have helped them along their journeys as ladies as well as mothers, and I'm sure that it will be inspiring to you, to anybody that was going through their journey in life and trying to navigate what to do in situations. And I'm sure today will be encouraging for you. So, are we ready?
Yeah, ready.
They are prepped. They are ready to go. All right. So, first off, let's find out a little bit about yourselves. So, tell us your name, a bit about your family, your background, children. Over to you.
Well, my name's Hilda and I'm married to the amazing David, and we thought we could never have children, so for me to be a mum at all was a miracle and a privilege.
Yeah.
So we had Esther, our first miracle baby, and she is now 42.
Right.
She's married to Paul and they have 2 children of their own, aged 11 and 9. And then 16 months later we had a miracle bonus baby and that was Richard. And he lives in Manchester now. He's 41.
Right.
He's married to Laura, and they've got 2 little ones, aged 5.5 and 2.5.
Wow, that's amazing. Okay, thanks, Hilda. Who's next on our panel?
So hi, I'm Donna, and I'm married to Mark.
Right.
And we have 2 children, of which we've got Tom, he's almost 20, and Hannah, who is going to be 17 this summer, so yeah, adult children in our house now. Yeah. And to throw in the mix, we've got a 3-legged cat who thinks she's actually in charge of our house, so it's quite fun.
Alright, thanks Donna. And lastly we have...
I'm Emily. I'm married to Matt. We've been married about 5 years now, and we've got one daughter, Grace, who is 19 months. She'll be 2 in August.
Eyes at the back of your head. That's
Yes.
what you need at that age, isn't it?
Yeah, I'd rather just tie her up and leave her.
Do we edit that bit?
She's good. Certainly need to watch her at all times.
Right, that's great. Okay, so if you could go back to one day in your childhood, what would that look like for you?
The most favourite memory of mine actually is on my 10th birthday. So my dad had been to work, it had been a really normal day, and he came home, and it was a long-standing tradition and bad joke in our family that my dad would come home and say, oh, you're going to have an apple or an orange for your birthday, that's all we got as kids. And this one particular birthday, he came home from work a bit earlier than normal and said, oh, I've got you an orange for your birthday. And I sort of said, ha ha, very funny. And he said, oh, there's a catch though, you've got to go to Spain to get it. And it was our first family holiday abroad, so the excitement was just amazing in the household because my sister and I had never been abroad before.
Right.
And then we got to plan from my birthday onwards to go on holiday in a couple of weeks' time. So
Oh wow.
yeah,
Oh,
that's my
nice.
favourite memory. I would say go back to that moment.
Donna.
For me, I did struggle with this one because, to use a cliche, I had an idyllic childhood, so to pinpoint one day was hard. So instead of that, I want to tell you the story of what happened every year leading up to going on holiday. We always, growing up, went to the East Coast. We always went to Mablethorpe. Absolutely loved it. But that wasn't the best part. The best part was the lead up. My dad, every Saturday morning, the tradition was, about 12 weeks before the holiday, we would all have to pile into Mum and Dad's bedroom, cups of tea, then we'd sit on the bed. Now, my dad didn't have a car back then either, so what my dad would do is he'd do the journey for us. So he'd say, you know, he'd explain, we're going to get in the taxi, we're going to go to the coast, and then he'd do every bit of the journey, every stop we'd make, what we'd have at the halfway stop. And actually, that was probably just as exciting, maybe not quite as exciting as the actual holiday, but those were my best memories every single year of going on holiday. So yeah.
Nice. Hilda.
Well, I struggled with this one too, because I suppose my childhood is quite a long way away now, and it's kind of a blur. But I am cheating a bit. I think the best day that I can remember was my 18th birthday. But you see, back in my day, we weren't adults until we were 21.
Right.
So, yeah, we weren't allowed to vote till
Got
then.
it easy, kids.
Yeah, there you go. So on my 18th birthday this year, my mum and I did it together, which is why I thought it was appropriate for Mother's Day.
Right.
We both love music, that was a gift I had from my mum.
Right.
And it was also Good Friday that year. And every Good Friday, the BBC would broadcast a performance of Bach's St Matthew Passion on the radio. For those of you who don't know, it's the most amazing piece of music. It's for orchestra, 2 choirs, 3 choirs actually, and soloists. And it takes 2-3 hours to get through. It used to be a day's performance with lunch in between. This year they were recruiting for the little 3rd choir that does the easy hymn bits in between from the local schools, and because I was the choir leader that year, I got to go. So there was me on the stage of the Royal Festival Hall, in amongst all these famous soloists who were kind of world renowned at that time, famous conductor, singing with a brilliant choir and orchestra. And my mum came too, we had lunch together, and it was a really, really lovely day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
To see, wouldn't it? So tell us what's the worst job you've ever had?
Well, that's very easy, I can answer that in one sentence.
One.
My holiday job at Boots. My holiday was a Saturday job, and I think that's enough said. I was not cut out for shop work at all.
So for me, when I left school, we did. I went straight into an apprenticeship. Back then, it was called YTS, but it was an apprenticeship, and I had a few of them before I got my permanent job. But the one that was really awful. I was only there 3 months, and the manager, there was 2 of us that started at roughly the same time, and for whatever reason she thought the guy was brilliant, the sun shone wherever it shines. Sorry, Mum. But unfortunately that wasn't the same for me, and she made my life really horrible, and it wasn't very pleasant, and I hated that job very much. So yeah, glad to leave after 3 months, I'll tell you.
Okay. I find this question quite hard actually, because I've had sort of very ups and downs in my working career. One of the jobs that I didn't like particularly much was being a GP receptionist, and it wasn't because I didn't like where I worked or who I worked with, it was just because some of those working days were extremely difficult. You would get very difficult patients that could be very abusive, and it was just a really up and down job. Some days would be lovely, you'd feel like you'd really made a difference in someone's life, and you'd work together as a team to really help someone, and then the next second you'd be in tears because someone had been, you know, calling you every name under the sun because you couldn't specifically change the whole NHS system to suit that one person. So very difficult, yeah. And one of the other jobs I didn't enjoy very much was I used to do children's parties. Yes. Which I thought I would enjoy until I did it. And it's just really hard work. You know, it's different when you're teaching, you're in a learning capacity and the kids want to be there, but at a party no one wants to listen to you. They want to run off and do what they want to do, so yeah, that was tricky.
So it's safe to say you're not going to join the kids team? Okay, great. What would be the most rebellious thing you've ever done?
Well, Leah forewarned us that she was going to ask us this in advance, and I turned to my husband and said, I don't think I want to answer that. I was a bit worried. But I sort of thought back over my teenage years, and in comparison to a number of my friends, I realised I wasn't actually that rebellious. Right. I don't think my parents really gave me a lot to rebel against. They were both quite rebellious in their youths, and so they, I think, just had a very laid-back approach that I didn't really know what to do with as a teenager. I think I was more rebellious in my identity and trying to figure out who I was. I went through a bit of a gothic phase. I was in with the goth crowd. And really went to town in the dress-up full that.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
lots of pictures of music. Yes, there is photographic evidence buried. But yeah, I think the most rebellious thing I probably did was probably not be entirely honest about where I was going or who I was going to be around. My parents were pretty good at sort of saying, just tell us where you are and who you're with, and there were times that I didn't really want to do that. So I would alter the facts slightly, but I wasn't, terribly rebellious. I think generally speaking I toed the line where needed.
Good. Okay, so I wasn't particularly rebellious.
Really?
However, and I'm going to apologise in advance to Mum, who will most likely be watching this, because I'm going to be in deep doo-dah. So, basically, when I was a child, this one particular day I went shopping with Mum and Dad to the corner shop, and back then there was all sweets on the checkout and what have you, so I decided to slide a fries texturite into my pocket. But as if that's not rebellious enough, we had church that evening. And so I went and sat in our church, and in church started eating this fried Turkish delight. Now I'm not quite sure whether it's because of that rebellious moment in my life, but from that day on I can't stand fried Turkish delight. It's disgusting. It's like so maybe that's my punishment. But yeah, slightly rebellious.
Well, I struggled over this one because, like you ladies, I was not that rebellious outwardly.
Oh, this is boring.
I know. I'll try and do a bit better. Inwardly, I was rebelling all the time. There you go. But I do remember my parents weren't Christians, but they did bring us up to have high standards and all the rest of it, and to be very careful who we went out with and all this kind of thing. I had a French pen friend come across to stay for 3 weeks. She was very streetwise. She taught me loads. And one of the things we did was to go to one of the local hotels where it was known that you could pull. So we went, we pulled, and we went to the pub with 2 young men who we just met for a drink after the dance. Well, what I hadn't told them was that at this time I was not yet 18. And in those days you were not allowed in a pub if you were under 18.
Right.
So that bit would have been okay until one of the young men decided that he would take one of the tankards home with him. So we're walking, I lived down south at the time, walking down the high street, he's swinging this tankard. A police car pulls up.
So what's a tankard?
A tankard, it's a glass thing that you put beer in.
Oh, okay.
Big one.
Right.
This police car pulls up and does no more but says we're under arrest, takes us to the police station.
No way.
Yeah. And phoned our parents.
Oh.
I know. My mum said they were trying very hard not to laugh. Because really, one beer tankard. Anyway, so that was my rebellion.
One more question that's not going to be too deep. Can you tell us a bit about maybe one of your family holidays that you really enjoyed going on?
I'm taking one that we took our kids on. Yeah. So again, they like you, they blur into each other. We used to take them in their primary years to the same little holiday cottage even in Swanage, in Dorset.
Oh, right.
Because Swanage is beautiful, it was just a few miles from the sea, you could drive in, you could go and sit on the beach. David's favourite thing was to go and have a deck chair near the Punch and Judy show.
Yes, I can see that.
Yeah. Because then we could listen to it for free.
Yeah.
Having an ice cream. But also we'd walk along the cliffs, we had a dog at the time, and it was just stunning scenery. And the best thing for the kids was that we didn't have much money in those days, we were pastoring then. But every year their grandparents would probably give them a £5 to take on holiday. And each night we'd go down to the pier in Swanage and they'd spend it on a treat, which might be an ice cream or it might be some cockles or whatever. And they were just nice, relaxed family times where we could chat and see nice things and do things we didn't normally do. Yeah. Used to love them.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I've always loved family holidays, as you've heard earlier. Loved my family holidays growing up, but equally, as I've got older and become a mum myself and got kids, family holidays are just, they're incredible. And, you know, they're the highlights of our year as a family, because it's the one time we're all together, tend to be in one room and what have you. So I did struggle to find my favourite one from being an adult, you know, because we have done holidays abroad, but I've got to say, I think as a family, we've probably loved even more than going abroad as holidays down south, like yourself. So we've done Torquay and Devon and we've done Cornwall a lot. And we've loved all that because we just love being together as a family and having fun and the beach side of it and all that. I think my very favourite one, if I was to give a favourite, is one when the children, they were so young, I can't even remember how old they were, but we went to Cornwall and it just so happened that year there was an amazing meteor shower that lasted for ages, and so we kept the children up that night. I mean, it was happening at about 11 o'clock midnight, so it was late for them, but to all be out on the balcony of this caravan, we were in a static caravan, just watching this meteor shower that went on for a good couple of hours. I think that's probably the most incredible holiday I've ever had as an adult. Yeah.
Okay. Well, for me, we took our daughter on her very first beach holiday last year, so it's going to develop right now. Yes, that's it. Well, at first she was very suspicious and she didn't like it. She wouldn't touch it, and we had to sit her on us or on a towel and sort of sprinkle it near her so that she could get to grips with what it felt like and what it was. But as soon as she was happy with that, she was away and we went paddling in the sea and playing with the sand, and it was just a fantastic experience to watch how she learnt about it and how new and exciting it was for her. It made us sort of more excited for it as well.
Okay, a bit more nitty-gritty questions now for you. What was the hardest thing that you've ever had to deal with as a child for you when you were growing up?
That is again another difficult question. for me because we were quite sheltered growing up, I would say. For myself personally, I think the trickiest thing was we had some family that we didn't know about, and my parents ended up in a position where they needed to tell us about this when I was 8 years old.
Wow.
So that was very interesting because you think you know everyone, you've grown up, you know exactly who you are and where your place in the family is, and then suddenly we had some extra people to meet that we were related to that we just had no idea about. So that was quite tricky to sort of get an 8-year-old's mind around. But it ended up a positive thing, and you know we were very close now, but it was difficult to understand at that age, I think.
Right.
For me, again, I've said already, it was an idyllic childhood. However, there was a season in my life when I was about 5 years old that was really hard, and that was because I was bullied at school, and it was some boys that were somewhat older than me, and they made my life a misery every single day. For I don't know how long. In my mind as a 5-year-old, this went on for a long time. It might not have. And unfortunately, I, like a lot of children, chose not to tell my parents for whatever reason. You know, as an adult now, I often question why I didn't tell, but I didn't. And so all Mum knew is every morning when she dropped me at the gates, because back now you take children to the door, but back then you dropped us at the school gates. And I do remember clinging to my mum, begging her not to let me go to school, absolutely begging her, and her having to send me in. And this went on for quite some time, and the only time it finally came to light because this one evening, unfortunately these boys literally barricaded me in school and they wouldn't let me out. I was in school, and so my mum, because again they collected from school gates back then, and she had to come down into the school building, and that's when she found out that I was being bullied, and it was a horrible season. Eventually it passed. The boys, like I say, were older, so as they moved up to the junior school, by the time I moved up then a year later, it was done, and I'd also got an older cousin there who basically told me that they come near you and I'll have them, so that was all good. But yeah, that was probably the worst season in my life as a child.
Right.
Yeah.
Thanks, Donna.
I don't know about the hardest thing, but one hard thing was, again, I was about 5 years old at the time, and I used to get a lot of really bad coughs. Nobody quite knew why. They thought, did I have TB? I didn't. So I went into Brompton Hospital, which was a long way from home, and my parents couldn't come and see me every day, and those were the days when parental visiting was not encouraged.
Right.
So at first I was in a ward with some adults. That was fine because they thought I was great. I was a little kid, they made a lot of me. Then I went into the children's ward, which was not such fun, and I was in, I think there was a little cot next to me with a little boy of 3
Wow.
whose mum was not allowed to come and see him because it made him upset. Later as a social worker, I just think, what were they thinking?
Yeah.
But anyway, and I remember that, you know, it was a little room on its own. We didn't get a lot of attention from the nurses. I was there a very long time, and I felt completely helpless. I remember dropping something out of, you were supposed to stay in bed. You couldn't just do what they do these days. So I dropped something out of my very high hospital bed, and I just didn't know what to do to get this, whatever it was. It never occurred to me that I could get out of bed and get it.
Yeah.
You'd have to have a nurse, and that was hard because they didn't come all the time.
No.
Right.
So I felt very alone.
Aw.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, it's been difficult, yeah. Oh, thank you for that. Right, so Donna, this one's just for Donna. This one's for you. What advice would you give to Emily when raising your young children?
So first and foremost, I would say cherish absolutely every single moment. And everybody says that, you know, that time flies, cherish it. But actually, genuinely, it's true. It doesn't seem 2 minutes since Tom, who is 20 in May, was Grace's age. It's just gone in the blink of an eye. You know, I don't feel old enough to have an almost 20-year-old in my house. But clearly I am. The air dye's doing a bit to help that along. But anyway, cherish absolutely every single moment, every milestone, whether it's the big ones like you did when she learnt to walk, whether it's just the little things, you know, when she comes home and she's got, you know, she's done great at school or she's achieved, celebrate every moment with her, cherish it, keep those moments, and tell her you love her often, no matter what. And I'm saying that now because one day she's going to be a teenager, and being amongst teenagers, there will be days when I remember I've said to at least one of my children, I don't particularly like it at the moment, and I might not like what you're doing, but I love you. You know, no matter what, tell her how much you love her. Always let her never doubt it, no matter what she puts you through. And she will, because she will be a teenager. But don't let her ever have any doubt in her mind that you still love her, because at the end of the day, when all's said and done, when she's come through it, she needs to know that mum and dad's still there, she's still got a home there. And just the final thing, always let her know that she can talk about anything. That's one thing I always say to both Tom and Hannah. You can absolutely talk to us about anything. There's nothing at all you can't talk to us about. There's nothing we can't handle together as a family, no matter how much you might think you can't. We will get through it as a family, no matter what it is. So that would be it. Just cherish every moment. Let her know always that you love her, and tell her. Don't just think that she knows it. Tell her. Use your words, and make sure she knows she can talk to you about anything at all. That would be my advice.
Great. That's good advice. Thanks, Donna. And so the kind of same question really for Hilda, for you, Donna. So raising teenagers, I know that could be quite tricky, or whatever, young adults. What advice then, Hilda, would you give to Donna?
Well, I've got quite a lot to say on that. But first of all, I would just say, before I say anything, congratulations, you are doing a fabulous job. Your kids are great, and it's not an easy time because they're discovering who they are, and they're kind of testing all the boundaries and all the things that you've taught them as a child and that they've loved you for. And so when our kids got to teenage, both of us came from homes that weren't particularly godly Christian homes, and so we felt we needed a bit of advice and help. So we're fortunate enough to be quite good friends with David and Eileen Petts. David was the principal of Bible College for many years, and he was also David's first pastor when he first became a Christian. So the links go back a long way, and some of you will know their children, who are fab.
I'm surprised me to one of them.
Wow, there you go. So we always loved their kids, so we had them round for dinner and picked their brains. And they gave us kind of 3 little rules that we found were invaluable. And I'm sure you probably know this already, but for the benefit of whoever might be listening. And they said, what you're already doing. Tell them every day that you love them. Very important. They said, don't have loads of rules, because you have to pick your battles.
Absolutely.
But make sure that the rules that you do have are kept to.
Yes.
They also said, keep God out of it when it doesn't matter. When it obviously concerns church, and I want to say a bit more about that, but if it's kind of example in our teenage years, Rich wanted to go to a film with a friend. It was a 15 and they were 12.
Right.
So it was quite easy for David to say, I'm sorry love, you can't go because it's a 15 and you're a 12. That was simple. We could have spiritualised it. Their advice was not to do that, because that just creates barriers and problems that don't have to be there. And they're also, of course, testing out the spirituality as well. Another good bit of advice we had from the Tipples, Keith and Val Tipple, was when you're telling them you don't want them to do something, rather than say, you're not doing that, they would use the words, we would sooner you didn't. And that for me was an absolute lifesaver, because my natural style is to say, nope, not doing it, end of. Doesn't work, really doesn't work. But what we looked for was to kind of natural conversations to occur where you can talk to your children about things like dating, and about where they go, who they go with, all that kind of thing. And we looked for those conversations, and that came from in here. I think that's all. I'm just looking down here because there was something that I wanted to say that was important. Oh yes, the most important thing of all actually is teenagers, I think, inevitably will say to you at some stage, if yours haven't said it already, we don't want to come to church. And I think that's a given for any Christian family. We chose to say at that one, and I think we were given wisdom. Well, darling, every family has things that are done. You may or may not like them.
Yes.
When I was growing up, we said, I had to go on long walks with my mum and dad, which as a teenager was not what I chose to spend my day. So for us it was that. For you, I'm afraid we would like you to come to church till you're 18, and then you can do what you like. But we did make sure that what we were inviting them to was good for their age group. So there was a good youth group going on, you know, there was stuff for them, all of that. We made sure they went to the youth club so that the friends they were making, because that's so important then, are friends who kind of share the kind of values that your family shares. And over the years we've been in touch with friends who have made different decisions and allowed their children to make that choice for themselves. Unfortunately, I think without exception, those kids haven't gone on with the Lord. So we just felt that was a bit of wisdom we were given. And
That's good wisdom.
Very good. In this day and age at the minute, it's really difficult, isn't it?
yes.
This is a question for all of you. It kind of follows on from that, really. What kind of godly things have you put in place as are you modelling for your kids? We'll start with you then.
Well, obviously, we try to model what it's like to live a Christian life, you know, to be honest, to care about people, to pray, to treat people with respect even if you don't like them. And we try to kind of also encourage them to connect with God for themselves. And we did that by means of little tiny readings from little Bible stories when they were very little. And even as babies, we used to pray with them when we put them to sleep at night and things. So they always saw us connecting with God. And then buy them the right kind of Bible and resources as they got older. And there comes a time, of course, where you don't know whether they're connecting with God. But you have to just trust that what you've put in there is the right kind of thing. And again, just look for conversations.
Yeah.
That's good. Great advice. Donna, got anything to add to that?
So for me, I've always tried to model what I was modelled by myself by my parents, and that is to rise early, to have my quiet time with God. Now, you know, for me, that's simple. For the simple fact that I'm a morning person, I'm not a night person. So where some people have their quiet time at night time, I go upstairs, put my head on the pillow, and I'm gone. So that doesn't suit me. But I can rise early, you know, and it was something that both my parents have modelled over the years. You know, my dad would get up. I mean, he was a postman, bless him, and he used to get up at like crack of dawn, but he would still be up an hour before that as well, having time with God. I don't get up at 3. I need to say that on camera. I don't get up at 3. But I do try and model rising early, and both my children have always known and still do that first hour is in my bedroom with coffee, because I always think that's God-given as well. Coffee,
Tea.
coffee and my Bible, and that's it. That first hour is me, God, and my coffee, and I've always tried to do that, you know.
Right.
Even when the toddlers, it's exhausting. You can't necessarily, if you've been up during the night, I appreciate it's not necessarily
different seasons.
So at that season in my life, actually, I would do it when my children had their afternoon nap. That's when I'd have my time with God. So I'm not saying, it's got to be. Every season's different, and for me, there was a time when actually it was the afternoon nap that my children had was when I would try to pray, but often I ended up having an afternoon nap as well. But anyway, God's an all-forgiving God.
So after this isolation, we should be like that with God, right?
Absolutely.
Working on it.
Well, that's it. And I think what we probably do things sort of similar to Hilda was saying, in that we try and, for example, we pray in the car before we go on a long journey. We have things in the house that remind us of Christian values, etc. And I think for us at the minute, it's trying to normalise it.
Right.
Because she's so young, she doesn't understand, and we want it to be everyday life, that as she grows up, it's not something strange or unusual, or that she has to make a real effort to choose to do. We want it to be that this is our family setup, and this is how we live together, this is how we support each other, and this is just what we do, and we want her to naturally feel that she's got that relationship with God, and that she can have those conversations, like Hilda was saying, with us, about exploring that, and not just with us but with the church. You know, Matt and I think as most parents have to face it, you don't know the answers to everything, and kids learn that the older they get, and we want to normalise coming to church and having that church family as well as our immediate family, so that if there are any questions she has or discussions she wants to have, if she doesn't feel comfortable having them with us, or she feels that we don't have the answers, there are people here that she can come to and have that discussion with as well.
Right.
And we just want her to feel really secure and normal in doing that, I think.
Oh wow.
I'll add something to that.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Yeah, you were saying about normalising, and that's the thing I meant to say. But I lost the place.
Great minds.
So, you know, if we were out with the kids, say we dropped something and we couldn't find it, I wouldn't kind of change, I'd just say, oh, we've seemed to, Jesus, will you please show us where we've dropped it?
Yeah.
And we would find it, and it would be quite natural, and kind of grown up with that. And in fact, my granddaughter said to me the other day, do you pray about everything? I said, yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
I took it as a compliment.
absolutely.
That's great. That's great. In fact, you can keep hold of that mic.
Right, okay.
Because it's the next one's directed at you, Hilda. So, some advice for those who are kids when they get married. Oh dear, I'm dreading that moment.
Oh yeah.
No, don't, it's great.
Can you elaborate on how, when your kids got married, how you welcomed in your in-laws, the daughter-in-law and the son-in-law?
Well, for us it was quite easy because we got to know both our daughter-in-law and our son-in-law long before they ever became that. So they were just friends or going out or whatever, so we just treated them like any other friends of the family.
Yeah.
And just kind of got to know them. And then Laura would come and stay after Rich went, I forget where he was. Anyway, she used to come and stay and call it her my room that she used to stay in. So we knew then that we'd kind of,
Yeah.
and actually, it's funny
That she
because,
belonged.
yes,
She felt
I
like
met her
secure.
first of all in a fish and chip shop in Manchester, where she had just enrolled to go on the Pays team that Rich was going to lead. And we just sat and had a chat, and something inside me, I thought, I wonder if this is going to be the one.
No.
So you might, you know, God might tell you.
Before.
I don't know. Yeah.
I hope so, because I dread how I'm going to be as a mum-in-law otherwise.
It'll be great.
Hopefully.
Right, okay, just a few more questions just to wrap up. So how have you created or creating a healthy family home? So like spiritually, emotionally, can you elaborate? Do you want to start on that one?
Yeah. So lots of love. I think that's the most important thing, but I don't think that's enough. I think you have to have, so love, lots of saying sorry to each other, because that's part of being, you know, if you as a parent, you want to be a strong parent, but if you get it wrong, then I did used to make a point of saying to them, sorry, really got that one wrong. And they now have that relationship with me, and I'm very, very thankful for that. Consistency, the consistent boundaries, I think those two things for me would be the key ingredients of a healthy home.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with that. Consistent boundaries, because particularly as teenagers, you know, they can push those boundaries and try those boundaries because their friends have. And I think, you know, for me, so my answer was always, you know, I'm not that person's mum, but I'm your mum. And this is, you know, so having consistent boundaries, like you said, keeping the lines of communication open as well. Never, no matter what happens, never shutting that off, you know. And obviously, that is often with teenagers, it's the parent that needs to keep that line of communication open, because often as teenagers, they can shut down on you. So it's, you know, constantly keeping those lines of communication open and learning to have fun. Have fun, laugh, you know, have humour in the family, laugh at stuff, you know, have fun together as a family, you know, you're a group network, and, you know, you've got to learn to get along and have fun and make life enjoyable.
That's great.
Yeah.
It's funny actually listening to the answer to this question, because I think the answer is the same across the board no matter how old your kids are. Listening to what Hilda and Donna have just said was very similar to what my initial response to this question is. I think consistency is key, particularly with a toddler. You know, they're learning everything, they're trying to find out what they can and can't do.
Return the favour.
She's older, we'll see about that when the time comes.
That's great. This next one, it could be for all of you. You might want to answer, might not feel like you're well experienced, so maybe you could draw upon your own experiences for this one. But how have you struck a balance between allowing your children to be themselves alongside developing their own characters?
Well, you can't really stop a 1-year-old from being themselves. She may not do everything we want her to do, but she's going to do it anyway, whether we're ready to or not. And actually that's something we want her to continue with in a way, even though you know, we may not always be happy with the way she handles things or what she chooses to do. Actually, she is her own person, and that's life, and that's part of growing up. And we need to try and, I think, in our opinion, set those goals early, like you both said, sort of that no matter what happens and what you choose to do, whether we advise you not to do it or not, you can still come back to us afterwards, and we are still there, and we are still the same. So for us, it's encouraging. She is starting to learn now that not all kids play the same, and not everyone likes everything she does, particularly at nursery, although she is pretty popular, but it's that learning curve, isn't it? They have to go through that, and they have to learn it for themselves. So it's just, keeping it open enough that no matter how battered or bruised she feels out there, she will always be loved and liked by us.
Great. So I just found this question quite a hard one because I think I've got the right balance, but I actually don't know if I have. So actually for this one, I asked Tom and Hannah because I thought, well, they're going to be brutally honest. So that's the other thing with teenagers, they are brutally honest. They will tell you, they don't sugarcoat it, they're not diplomatic, they will tell you if you're not got the right balance. So I actually asked Tom and Hannah for the advice on this question, and their response was pretty much the same. They said, growing up, obviously there were rules and there were consequences if those rules were broken. They said, but now that they're older, obviously it's kind of like a rope. You know, when they're younger, that rope is very tight, it's very short. As they've got older, you let that rope out. But actually, I've not found that easy. I'll be honest, it's been a learning curve for me. When Tom was 15, you know, he wanted that rope wider, and I didn't want to. I wanted to control, and, you know, for his protection. It was all for the right reasons. I wanted that, you know. And I've kind of had to learn along the way that actually, if I want to keep my son and the respect of my son, I need to let that rope out a bit, you know. And Tom said, he still knows that there are values that are kept in this home. There are standards that we expect to be kept in our home because it's our home. So there are certain things that are off the table. So in our home, not that they do, but there's no swearing, there's no foul language, there's certain programs that are not permitted that we will switch off. But equally, because they're older, they've had to make their own choices on stuff. And I've been honest at times, and I've said, well, I don't particularly like the choice you've made. I've had this conversation with Tom at times. I've said, I don't necessarily agree with that choice, but you're an adult now, so I need to respect that you're going to make your own decisions, but I need you to respect my views, my opinions, and our values in this home. And I've got to be honest, you know, they're teenagers, and I've joked, but they're actually great kids, and, you know, they do respect the values that we have in our home. So hopefully, with their answer, I'm hoping we've got the right balance. We'll find out, I'm sure.
You just remind me of something actually. When I was listening to somebody recently, I can't remember now where it what do you want your house to sound like? Do you want it to sound like a screaming riot? what do you want? You know, when we talk about building culture, and we talk about our culture as a church, but our own families, what do you want your house to sound like? And that really challenged me. So I went away from that thinking, yeah, I don't want to be shouting. I don't want that sound in my house to when I'm shouting them down the stairs. No, we don't shout in this house, do we? We don't do. It's what culture do you want? What sound do you want to come out of your house? And that really challenged me. It just reminded me of that when you were speaking. Hilda.
I love that, Leah.
Yeah.
So it's a difficult one because every child is different, aren't they?
Yeah.
And every parent is different.
Yes.
And there are some things that you can have control over because you are the one that's paying the mortgage in the house that they live in, you are the one that's buying the food that they eat, you're paying the television licence, or you were doing, on what they're watching. Of course, it's a whole lot more different ballgame with all the social media. So we took the line that yes, we would limit how much television they watched, we would limit what they watched, we would limit what we watched as well for the same reason, so it was consistent. We were not perfect parents, I just want to say this, and I know that my kids will be watching this and they'll be saying, she never. But anyway,
We learn as we go along.
we learn as we go along. But there are other things like, for example, Rich was into music, he used to listen to the Nirvana and all that, but you know, again, I used to just look for the opportunities to chat about what's the music about, what's it saying to you, you know, and kind of the value of it, and kind of seek to get them thinking rather than just doing stuff that their mates were doing, actually thinking about how valuable is this, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, I think we've pretty much said all we can on that one, really. It is difficult, it's very, very difficult, and it's an ongoing thing.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, so the final question is, in the Bible it talks about different roles of the women and the men in the home.
Yeah.
So what does that look like for you? How do you work it in your house, the men, your different roles?
Yes. Okay, so I wish you hadn't asked me first.
Too long a pause there, Hilda.
Yeah, well, we've been married now for 49 years, getting on 4, and I would say that there are seasons. I think we've touched on this before. There are seasons of just married. Yay! There are seasons of along come the kids. There are seasons of the kids are older. They're not so easy. And then there are seasons when the kids have gone and there's just the two of you again, which is where we are now, obviously. So in the beginning, our marriage was very interesting, shall we say. And for years we kind of felt quite bad about that and, you know, what's wrong with us. All was revealed when we did the MBTI personality inventory and discovered that both of us had strong leadership profiles. So that explained why we were both right all the time.
Absolutely.
So, but that helped us a lot because although we both have strong leadership profiles, they're different. So I like to organise down the line and think about the future and plan it. He likes to kind of go with the flow. And we used to really struggle about that because it is about lifestyle and, you know, so, but that helped us to kind of appreciate where the other was coming from. That's helped me to appreciate that his go with the flow is actually the right approach, probably in an emergency where we've got to think quick. And that my approach is probably the best for day-to-day running of the household. So that's kind of how we do it now. So I pay the bills, I look after the money in that sense. Whenever there's a big decision, we usually find they're easy to make. And we usually make them very quickly. It's the little things, isn't it, that we tend to argue about the most. So, I wish I could say that all was sweetness and light and I'm afraid that would not be true. But we love each other very dearly.
So, Mark and I have been married 21 years this summer, and for anyone that has got to know us a little bit, you will very quickly appreciate that Mark and I are absolute opposites. So Mark is a very quiet, very steady, very calm man. I'm not. I am the complete opposite of all of that.
Surprising.
Yeah, apparently it's been said that I like to talk. don't know where people get that idea from, but apparently I like to talk. I wouldn't say I'm the calmest person. I will admit that I'm not always the calmest. You know, but actually it's really worked for us because I think we've got that balance. We've gone into this marriage as a partnership, and as all the partnerships go on, it's evolved over the years. So like you said, first we were just a young, very romantically in love couple, and then before we knew it, we've got Tom, and then before we knew it again, we've got Hannah. It's very much evolved. Although we're opposites, I think we work well together, even in the home with practical stuff. So even in the kitchen, we work. So I love baking, and I would say that's my forte. Mark, if you want a curry, he's your man. You know, we don't have his and hers roles in our house. We've just figured out what his giftings are. Mark's brilliant at doing a curry. I can whip up a cake. You know, he is, you know, typical man. He is great with DIY. You know, that's why I've got a nice kitchen. Had it been left to me, it wouldn't have happened. You know, we've got his own role.
We're going around for dinner.
Apparently I talk a lot, but I can make a cake. But no, so we've just, you know, our roles have naturally evolved, but it fits well. You know, so although we're different, we absolutely fit, I would say. You know, time will tell, but 21 years ain't too bad.
So I suppose Matt and I are really in the early stages of all of this. So we've only been married for 5 years so far, and we've been together for about 9 in total. And again, similarly, we're quite different. We have very different approaches to things. We have different things that we're good at. And I think for us, it's been sort of learning where our strengths and weaknesses lie for each of us individually and filling in the gaps together. Again, Matt is very handy the same, so I can be quite clumsy.
That's to borrow him.
You'll have to ask him that. I'm quite clumsy. I break a lot of things, and Matt generally fixes them all. So that's worked out very well for me. And again, I'm more similar to you in that I tend to deal with the finances. I deal with the money. I like stationery and organisation. It suits.
She likes pens.
I do. Yes, I get. You know, I'm rather looking at a stationery shop than a clothing shop usually. So you know, we try and support each other in that. And if Matt needs to do something in the house, I'll have Grace so he can concentrate on that. If I need to concentrate on the paperwork, he'll have Grace so I can concentrate on that. And we just try and fill in the gaps together, really. And I think, like Donna said, you know, it is an evolving relationship, particularly once we had Grace. You know, not even 2 years ago yet, our dynamic had to change, our family dynamic had to change, because suddenly all of the attention where it was focused before didn't matter, and we had to refocus and try and find a way to still do all of the necessary paperwork and house stuff and general life alongside trying to, you know, raise a baby, which is hard work. And particularly when you don't sleep, you know, all of your other priorities go out the window. So it's really challenged us, I think, in our dynamic, but in a positive way. I think we respect each other probably more now than we did before we had Grace, because we've had that extra pressure, and we've still felt the same about each other. We still support each other, we still love each other, and we still have that relationship, just with an extra now. So yeah, I think that's key for us.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, ladies, for joining us this morning. I would say give them a round of applause, but I'm sure you're clapping at home. So yeah, thanks for joining us. We want you to enjoy the rest of your Mother's Day.
Hey, well, that was great, wasn't it? We're so excited about that. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm believing that God spoke to you through it, and we're excited to see what God's going to do next Sunday as well. A couple other things just to let you know about before we sign off for today. Later on today, you will get a video on Facebook just explaining what we're going to do and advertising what we're going to do on Tuesday night. we are having a prayer meeting online through an application called Zoom. You can download the app and you can also do it through a web browser. So listen up for Andy's going to be sharing a bit more about that later on this evening through our Facebook. Also, just to remind you that every single day this week, in the morning at 10 o'clock and in the evening at 7 o'clock, there will be a video released. At least one of those will be live, so you'll be able to watch it and you'll be able to comment, and it's similar to what we've done today. But those videos are there just to encourage you throughout the week and to build you up and to help you. We're still the church, right? We're being church to each other, we're just doing it in a different way. And so we're excited to connect with you on a daily basis, Monday to Friday, and of course Sunday next week at 11. So we'll see you soon.